So with Scream 6 now looming over the horizon, scheduled to be released in less than 2 months, the overall idea by having one singular individual go as far as to collect and retrieve previous items and crime scene-like evidence in order to memorialize it in the form of a shrine, the entire Scream fandom seems to be now wondering as to who is behind collecting all of these items to begin with, and if there is going to be more than 2 Ghostfaces involved in this overall scenario moving forward, because whenever there is a shrine involved, more often than not, there's always a group of people behind it. As joining me right now to further tackle the subject once again of a cult having to be featured in Scream 6 is none other than my good friend and YouTuber Mark and I. Now Mark, we've talked about this ironically in preparation for Scream 5, as we originally had made the assumption that maybe there's a cult in Woodsboro, maybe they could possibly go as far as to introduce more than 2 Ghostfaces in having a figure-like being become the leader of this group that seems to be worshipping the idea of what originally transpired in Woodsboro when it all first began with Billy and Stu. So what I wanted to get your thoughts on, Mark, as well as everybody watching this video down in the comment section below, is would you rather say you'd be leaning more on the side of there being an actual group or cult behind this, or would you rather say that you'd be leaning more towards maybe a singular individual having to just gather all of these things together, or with a partner, and for there to be only 1 or 2 individuals involved? Because if it's going to be taking place in New York City, then it's kind of more realistic to have either 1 or 2 people involved than as opposed to having more than just 2, in this case having to be an entire group that maybe features more than 5 individuals.
The term that Gale uses when they're in this room and they see everything that's collected from all the past movies. I mean, you pointed out they have the bullets, they have the fax machine, the TV. These are objects that I don't know how you would get. Like these aren't things that you would just go to like some sort of police auction and like grab. These aren't things that just would show up on eBay. These things are evidence in like pieces of some of the most insane mass murderer serial killing sprees like in all of this universe's history, and over multiple generations and multiple killers, and they got them all. So this isn't, I mean, I said this before, but I don't know how you would get that, especially the bullets. The bullets themselves, that is a hard one for me to comprehend how that's even possible, from the sense that they're so small that like they would have to be locked up in evidence. And the only way you get those is if you're a member of law enforcement and that you have access to the evidence room, or you have some sort of connection to someone who does and you paid them to get that out there. But this doesn't make sense though, because it's everything. If like a single bullet or a single glove went missing from the evidence room, you probably wouldn't bat an eye. You'd probably be like, all right, Jenkins misplaced that shit again, that stupid moron, like whatever. And that would be the end of it. But the fact that this is literally everything, that can't go unnoticed. So I don't know where this stuff came from. I don't know how they were able to acquire it all, but you have to be very resourceful. You have to have a ton of money, and you have to know law enforcement, because you're not going to convince me that they were able to obtain all this stuff without a connection to the law. That's not feasible. And I certainly don't think that this show, or this movie rather, is going to go in a direction that's going to like keep that overlooked. Now, I think the inclusion of Kirby in this is interesting because she's a member of the FBI, so maybe she's got some sort of like, I mean, she has stakes in the game, right? But I don't know if she's investigating something that like the other people in the movie, like they don't know. Maybe she's got like ulterior motives or something like that. Maybe she's after the collector. I don't know. But I think that the terminology about all this is that they refer to this collection as being a shrine. And what is a shrine? It's a place of like worship, right? Religious, like possibly religious fanatics, but not always, right? Like you could have a shrine that's not like, fanatic, but obviously this is the example of where it would be. The collection is beyond obsessive. Like you could not claim it to be anything other than, like, that's an obsessive collection. It's a crazy complete collection too. But I don't know how one man or woman could pull all that off. I don't know how you could get all that. So the fact that it's a shrine, and I think also, I'm just thinking about like the 5th movie, how there's just some people that met online, how they just felt so connected to the franchise and wanted to take it in a different direction that they decided to become killers themselves. If 2 people met that way, just like on some sort of forum or Reddit or whatever, then I would have to think that there would be a lot of other worshipers out there that would come together to display their collections. So part of me is thinking like, okay, yeah, like there's a possibility that this could be one person who just has a lot of money, a lot of power, and a lot of influence, but who the hell could that be? The other question is, like, where exactly is this warehouse? Because it's not, they moved to New York, okay? They're not in the place where it all started now. That's so, it's too coincidental for them to move literally across the Midwestern United States all the way over to the East Coast in New York. And then just randomly find some single individual who has a lot of money, power, and influence to obtain all these relics, who wants to be a killer and starts hunting them down. This is someone who I think would have followed them. This is someone who came with. And I think the only person, since it's Sam, Tara, and the twins, the only person who's athletic enough to be able to pull off some of the killings that we saw is Chad. Now, do I think it's Chad? I don't know, but I certainly think he's the only one that would, I don't want to say make sense, but from the physicality of it, from the athleticism shown in that character, there's something else. There's something else here. Now, in past movies, it's been more than one killer, so I certainly don't think that there's only one killer in this movie. It's definitely more than one, but I think it might be more than two for the first time, right? Yeah, more than two. And if that's the case, then I think we could be dealing with a cult situation. But I don't know. There's so many different ways that this can go. It's really, really difficult to narrow it down from what we've seen. We're so far into the franchise now that they definitely want to try something new. You can feel it. You can literally feel it in this trailer. And I don't know. But I am very, very anxious to find out.
See, now for me, it's a little different because we know that by the end, it's a little predictable that our heroes are going to emerge victorious, and hopefully they end up actually preserving at least one Ghostface, because I think it'll be different for them to carry on by having at least one of the two Ghostfaces, or if it's one of many, end up surviving, so that way they can take the movie into Scream 7 by having the exact same individual that was behind this Ghostface return. But I think that at the same time, you kind of have to destroy this entire shrine or the location that this is going to be taking place in, because all of the items and all of the memorabilia there, whether it was from the crime scene or whether it came from the victims, has some sort of meaning. So I think that by the end, we're going to see either the police or FBI just bust on in and retrieve everything, or perhaps maybe Tara and Sam are going to set the entire place on fire, only because you kind of have to burn these things in order to make sure that, hey, you don't have another cult or any other kind of wannabe individual who wants to be Ghostface kind of step in and worship these things, or at least kind of look at these things as something that's kind of symbolic to them. And so I definitely believe that without Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott's character being present, is it going to change the dynamic of this film? Because we're often used to seeing Sidney a part of something when it comes down to Scream, but now we aren't really going to see her, or maybe as many people pointed out, it's going to be some sort of a publicity stunt in the fact that it's all basically for marketing and that she is going to be in the film. We don't know, but what is certain is that I'm fairly confident that our heroes, whether that be just Sam, Tara, and her friends, or maybe even one of the sisters, because hey, there is that possibility of one of them being the killers, which I do want to get your thoughts on here. So when it comes down to everything, what are your overall expectations going forward as this movie looks to kind of pave its own way, because we know that Scream 6 isn't going to be the last Scream movie? So with that, do you believe that everything is going to be maybe as predictable as some people say it is, or is it going to enter maybe into a different realm in which this film becomes far more unpredictable than what we're actually expecting for it to be?
I think you've said a lot of points that I agree with completely. I think they are symbolic. I think they need to be burned in order to put this trilogy behind us, not from a fan perspective, but the characters and what they've dealt with all the way up until this point. But the one thing that I wanted to start off and point out was Sidney's character. I'm still not convinced that everything that up until this point where Sidney was removed because Neve Campbell, I was reading about it today. So Neve Campbell had said that she feels like she brings a lot of value to 20 plus years of the franchise, and that she was offered something that wasn't what she felt she was worth. And so she decided to step away, and she felt like if she was a man, she would have been offered more money. Now, I can't speak to that. I don't know what it's like to be female, let alone a female in this industry. No idea. I'm not 100% convinced, though, that these aren't some sort of marketing tactics to hide Neve's involvement as Sidney in the movie. Now, the writers and the directors and stuff were talking about this. I forget specifically which one of those parties, but they had said that Sidney will be referenced in the movie, and her character will be protected. I don't know what that means, but those are the exact words. So I don't know if they're just going to reference it. I don't know if they decided to go to New York specifically because the original story involved Woodsboro again, and they decided to make it go into New York. I don't know. The question that I have, though, is the plot seems to be wanting to take place in New York. They're trying to get away from Woodsboro. So I don't know if this is a vacation. I don't know if they're just going here for, a whole new life, a fresh new start. I don't know. But that begs the question, then where is the shrine? Is this shrine in Woodsboro? Did they get pulled back to Woodsboro somehow? Is this somebody who's in New York already? I don't know. But that means that if the killer is following them, then the chances are that they probably wouldn't carry their whole collection with them to put it on display in this warehouse, unless this warehouse was like the last location that they could acquire in secret to put all that stuff on display for them as some sort of big show boat, how they're one big super fan. I don't know. But the one thing about that is that if it is a singular killer that has collected all this stuff, and I don't know if it necessarily will be, you could have multiple people come together and put their collections together. It's not unheard of. And if it is a shrine, if they're wanting to have a collective of all their stuff on display that they can come and worship, I don't know. The display of everything doesn't necessarily look like a place of worship per se, so much as it looks like basking in one's collection where they can admire what they have. Hard to say, because you brought it up. That's why, and you made a really good point. When you collect these items, why do you have it? You do it for power because you believe that these are vessels of power, or they've been imbued with power in some way, and that could be something that motivates you to do great things. I don't know. But I will say that it looks like the killer is trying to prove that there's something different, because if they're this obsessive collecting all this stuff, they've been watching and learning from every single killer and learning from their mistakes. Now, I don't want this sort of character to die, because a killer that has learned from 5 movies of however many killers it's been, 9 or 10 or however many, I don't want a killer who's learned from all that to fall, because that says no matter what, the bad guy goes down and the good guys always win, and I don't want to see that. Dewey dying sort of changed that a little bit by saying no one is safe. Now, if Sidney's not in this movie, she's probably alive and she's not a part of it in some way. As to why you would leave out Sidney and you would only go for Gale, the writing has to either A, specifically have someone who's invested in the characters, the Meeks twins or the sisters in Gale. So someone is heavily invested in them. I don't know who that would be, but they have to be very, very, very closely connected to them in some way to want to be involved in all this. Following them to New York, knowing they went to New York for one, because I'm sure that probably wasn't like a public forum. They didn't blast it on Facebook or something that they were doing that. Has to be someone who has access to the whole collection, and it has to be someone who has something to prove in all this. So I don't exactly know why. But in the past, we've always seen that in order to mask the killer, there's always 2. There's one who looks like a victim, and then you find out that they're in on it, and they turn on each other or something like that. It happens all the time. Now, is Gale the killer? Could be. It could be that maybe something was propositioned in that scene, because Ghostface is on the phone with Gale while someone else is in the room. So if that person is in the room, maybe Gale's trying to put on a show that she's in on it for whatever reason, and she's trying to, just cover her tracks. Could very well be. I don't know. I would be really pissed off if they brought Sidney back in and then killed her off screen, or she turns out to be the killer. That would piss me off. That said, I do agree, though, that at the way that this is shaping up, the way that they're teasing that this is a brand new killer, a brand new setting, a whole new set of rules, or a whole new set of non-rules, whatever you want to call it, this is a killer that knows what they're doing. Now, the ones in the past, they were always motivated by something dumb. I want to be famous. I want to be the one. I want to replace my cousin. I want to make a whole new series because the last one sucked and fell flat or whatever. That sort of stuff bothered me. But I do think this one has a whole new motive. I don't know what that could be, though, but this isn't someone that you kill and just write off in one movie. So what I would like to see, because I can't say what I think is going to happen because we've not seen anything like this before, what I would like to see is the killer live, and maybe they think that they're dead, but the killer is, in a post-credit scene, revealed to be alive and taken into custody by Kirby and kept in some sort of solitary confinement, white room, glass walls for observation type of thing for the next trilogy. And maybe, a new killer or killers show up and they have to reveal that Kirby's hey, the killer's actually alive. We need to consult this one and see whether or not they can help us with the mind of Ghostface. I think that would be something the franchise has never ever done, is that they've worked with the killer to try and catch the other killers. I don't know, but I would like to see something like that happen. I do think that there are definitely going to be more than one killer, The only thing is I'm not sure whether or not we're seeing multiple actual killers in the subway, since a bunch of people are dressed up for some sort of costume event, whether it's Halloween or something else, I don't know. But I don't want the killer to die, whoever it is. This one is crafty, this one is powerful, this one is connected. This is not one that I want to see go away. And if it is more than one person, then I wouldn't mind if it was a legacy character as well as a new one who are working together. I can see why Gail would do it. She lost her mind after Dewey died. I've talked about this before, that she's trying to sell books, something like that. Kirby showing back up is questionable, but considering that she's a member of law enforcement or some sort of intelligence group like the FBI, that also suggests that there's something else going on here. I don't know. But one thing that we do know is that Sam and Tara are targets, and Sam specifically is losing her mind, and I think that's going to play heavily into it, and I think it's going to be a lot of trickery in what the audience sees versus, like, what's actually there and not there.
See, now I definitely believe that this is kind of tricky, because if you make Sam the villain, it's kind of predictable because we know that she's kind of influenced by Billy in a sense, you know what I mean? But then again, at the same time, I truly do believe that by the end, she ends up defeating whoever is wearing this original mask, because we kind of see that in the trailer with her kind of holding it because she has blood on her hands, she has blood all over her face, so I doubt that she is going to be the killer. I mean, for all we know, it might be her sister Tara, but either way, let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below in regards to the cult idea. Maybe if you guys believe that perhaps maybe it's not a cult behind this, but more or less one or two or maybe three other individuals involved. Let us know what you guys think down below. Again, thank you all so much for watching, everybody. Thank you all so very much for your time. To where, once again, if you guys are new to the channel, then I do encourage you all to head on over and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications, so that way you guys never miss a single video that is posted onto the channel. On top of that, by also giving this video a big fat thumbs up right now by smashing that like button down below if you guys are excited and cannot wait to see Scream 6. Tune back in for more, and we'll be seeing each and every single one of you down in the comment section below and in the next video. Take it easy, guys, and have a great day. Peace!